After the exodus from Egypt, the Israelites conquered the land of Canaan as promised by God. The era of the Judges was a subsequent period of regional leadership in Israel, marked by cycles of apostasy, foreign oppression, and divine deliverance. The conquest of Canaan and the era of the Judges are crucial periods in the history of the people of Israel, described primarily in the books of Joshua and Judges in the Old Testament of the Bible. Conquest of Canaan described in the book of Joshua narrates some events, such as succession of Moses by Joshua. After the death of Moses, Joshua is appointed by God as his successor to lead the Israelites in the conquest of Canaan. Crossing the Jordan River, Joshua leads the Israelites in the miraculous crossing of the Jordan River, similar to the crossing of the Red Sea during the Exodus. Fall of Jericho. Joshua's first major victory occurs with the fall of the walls of Jericho, a miraculous event that demonstrates God's power in favor of his people. Conquest of Canaan. Over several years, the Israelites, under Joshua's leadership, fight a series of battles and conquer the cities and territories of Canaan, as commanded by God. Division of the Promised Land. After the conquest, the land of Canaan is divided among the tribes of Israel as an inheritance, as promised by God. The era of the Judges, described in the book of Judges. The era of the Judges in the Bible is a crucial period in Israel's history between the conquest of the Promised Land and the establishment of the monarchy. Historical context. The era of the Judges occurred approximately between 1200 and 1000 BC, after the death of Joshua and his contemporaries and before the rise of Saul as the first king of Israel. It was a period of transition and political instability in Israel. The Book of Judges. The biblical Book of Judges describes this period and details the leadership of various leaders, called judges, who emerged in times of crisis to lead and defend the people of Israel. Cycle of apostasy and deliverance. A recurring pattern during the era of the Judges was the cycle of apostasy, abandonment of faith in God, oppression, crying out for help, and deliverance provided by a judge raised by God. This cycle reflects the tendency of the people of Israel to stray from God and face consequences for their sins. Judges and heroes. Some of the most prominent judges include Othniel, Ehud, Deborah, Gideon, Jephthah, and Samson, among others. Each judge had unique characteristics and faced specific challenges in their leadership. Challenges and conflicts. During this era, Israel faced internal and external threats, including conflicts with neighboring nations and internal problems due to apostasy and sin. The judges often led the people in military battles and also administered justice among the tribes of Israel. Some judges, like Samson, are known for their heroic feats and supernatural abilities, but also for their flaws and sinful impulses. Violence and military conflicts are common during this period, reflecting the turbulence and instability of the time. Moral and spiritual decline. The era of the Judges is marked by a moral and spiritual decline in Israel, with episodes of idolatry, immorality, and violence. The moral and social problems faced by the people reflected the lack of unified leadership and the abandonment of the covenant with God. Preparation for the monarchy. The instability and conflicts during the era of the Judges paved the way for the eventual monarchy in Israel. The people's clamor for a human king, as observed in the book of Judges, led to the appointment of Saul as the first king of Israel. During the era of the Judges, Israel's leadership was typically decentralized, with the judges acting in specific regions and often serving simultaneously as military and spiritual leaders. Women in the era of the Judges. In addition to male judges like Gideon and Samson, the era of the Judges also features prominent female figures like Deborah, who was a prophetess and judge who led Israel to a significant military victory against the Canaanites. Establishment of the tribes of Israel. During the era of the Judges, the tribes of Israel began to settle in Canaan and consolidate their tribal identities. However, national unity was often undermined by internal conflicts and external threats. The era of the Judges in the Bible is a fascinating and complex period in Israel's history, marked by a complex interplay of spiritual, political, and military events. It presents a series of important lessons about faith, leadership, fidelity to God, and the consequences of disobedience. The era of the Judges is an important part of Israel's history that emphasizes God's faithfulness amid the people's unfaithfulness and highlights the need for godly leadership and obedience to the divine will. The judges were raised by God to deliver and guide the people in times of crisis, and their story serves as a reminder of the importance of obedience and devotion to God.